here. Please stay with us.
The Korean War of 1950 to 1953 pitched North and South Korea against each other in response to intrigues by nations beyond their border with different interests from those canvassed by the two brother nations. The Korean War had all the nuances of an external conflict induced by powers that were interested in subjugating North and South Korea. Japan had leveraged on its military power to annex Korea in 1900 and imposed a military union that did not sit well with the citizens. Japan not only lost its war of conquest against Korea, all its powers were obliterated by the effect of the World War II. The end of World War II got Korea divided into two nations along 38 parallel lines by the instrumentality of the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The Korean War lapsed into a Cold War when it stopped the prying eyes of external forces into the internal affairs of a nation now divided along its north and southern territories. Western Spring Television identifies the Korean War as a major event in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
right, let's begin this morning checking out some of the headlines making the rounds from the various dailies I have with me here. But if you're just joining us, I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to say good morning to you once again. Thank you most sincerely for tuning in, day out. Morning Spring, live on Western Spring Television. Checking out my first set of headlines making the rounds this morning from the pages of the Punch newspaper. Quite a whole lot in here. And let's see how we can talk about it amongst ourselves this morning. The big bold caption here says, fuel smuggling persists in borders despite subsidy removal. Fuel smuggling persists in borders despite subsidy removal. That's credited to the custom boss talking there. And there are two riders to that story. Customs CG rejigs border patrol. Orders crackdown on fuel smuggling cartels. NNPCL intercepts Cameroon-bound vessel laden with 800,000 liters stolen crude oil. Now, that's the amazing thing there. Where do they get that quantity of fuel? They must have probably tapped from the pipeline somewhere. I really don't know how this, because I'm not involved and I'm not interested in being involved. But the point is, there's quite a whole lot that needs to be done. All these pipelines that have been tampered with, you have hoses plugged in, even deep down into the ocean where these pipelines are. And you have all these people siphoning fuel. And here we are, just looking at that. Says NNPCL intercepts Cameroon-bound vessel laden with 800,000 liters stolen crude oil. You know how many vehicles will have benefited from that? That's huge, and something drastic must just be done. Towards our borders are very not too good. The borders are not really standing firm. You have people being able to cross in, cross out, bring in illegal products, goods, and wow. We just hope something drastic will be done concerning the smuggling issue. And the necessary agencies, security agencies, need to wake up and do the needful. We wish them the best. I know they're actually trying their very best, but we look at statements credited to so many people. Asari Dokubu has come out to say the Navy, the Army, they know about this, they help in this and that. You've had former governor of Rivers State, Yusum Wike, as even had said it to the faces of the commanders of the different security network in Port Harcourt a couple of months ago. And when you hear this, that those people who are been mandated to keep an eye over these things are even the ones even assisting the smugglers to do this very heinous, terrible act. But we just hope something can be done drastically. All right, looking at the big bold picture there, you could see the President of the United States, Joe Biden, alongside his the UK Secretary of Energy there, and also Mr. Tony Elumelu at the Windsor Castle yesterday in Britain, talking about the climate change and energy program. Yeah, we just hope that they have a very beautiful time out there. All right, just move over to the stories making the round from the side corner of the Punch newspaper. Lagos Airport runway lights stolen, 7 suspended. That's the amazing thing. How would those lights are not just the kind of lights we probably use in our studio here, whereby how can 7 runway lights be removed and nobody must have seen them at that moment in time? How? That's baffling. Not just 1, not 2. You have lights. Okay, Lagos Airport runway light stolen, 7 suspended. Is it an aspect of suspending them, or they should produce it? But then, let's move on here. Fayose will pay for working against Atiku, PDP. That's credited to a NEC member talking there. All right, then. Let's keep our fingers crossed. NLC meets governors over fuel subsidy palliatives. And we want to give kudos to all the governors who have stood up to say they are working on palliatives for the citizens of their states to be able to alleviate this very hard period at this moment in time. Coming to the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper, PDP demands transparency as ADEMOLA extends sick leave. First of all, we want to wish Mr. Governor Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu speedy recovery and good health. So yesterday we all heard the news that he had written to the State House of Assembly seeking for an extension of his medical leave. Yeah, if you know you are not properly healthy, yeah, why not? But politics and politicians, they could be funny at times. But we wish Mr. Governor Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, we wish him the very best, speedy recovery. Lagos vigilante tortured colleague to death over phone. What? Now, who will eventually use that phone? You killed somebody. Now, obviously, you have been arrested. Now, this is what you've been fighting for. Who eventually will use this? I wonder when certain quarrels come up, and these are minute quarrels that can be easily just resolved, but it's led to death here now, and you will be charged, you will be arrested. Death? Oh boy. Moving on here, let's go to the top corner, the top strip of the Punch newspaper for today. It is illegal for National Assembly to fix members' pay. That's credited to Obasanjo. Then, when Mr. President, former President Olusegun Obasanjo was president, why did he say this during his tenure? These are things that people get baffled about. When I saw the story last night, we were discussing this, and that was just the statement somebody said that while he was president, did he make this statement? Well, here we are. Mr. President, Mr. Former President, he knows why he's saying that. If you're interested in full details, please check it out from the pages of the Punch newspaper for today. And just beside that same story, EcoBank asks FBN to reject Otudeka's share accusation. You want to know more? You want to know why? Please check the pages of the Punch newspaper. Tinubu can't appoint everybody minister. That's credited to Adamu speaking there. Obviously, he can't. There will be others who you get one, others will get other, and some of us might not even get. But then we just hope he gets the right set of ministers. Everybody put up in the right set of portfolio to do the needful. There was a fake news last night. I saw a long list of names and their portfolio, the ministries in which they will be manning. I was like, Nigerians and fake news, we are so used to this. But then the names are not out. The list has just been sent to DSS, EFCC, ICPC, and we're waiting for confirmation if anybody is fully cleared to proceed to that position very, very soon. But the list, no names, no portfolio is out yet. They are still with the DSS and they are doing the needful. Let's move on this morning. The Vanguard newspaper is next. Vanguard newspaper, I have the Vanguard open here. And looking at the big bold headline there, that's credited to the Reverend Father Matthew Kuka speaking here. It says, corruption's ugliest face was under Buhari. That's credited to Kuka. We will talk about that in the course of this program as well, looking at that story. Quite a whole lot of rider associated to that story. Laments Nigeria's sharing sovereignty with bandits, terrorists. Says Nigerians have lost faith in judiciary. We won't join issues with him. That's credited to Buhari's aide speaking there. Falana cautions Tinubu against sending wrong signals on anti-corruption fight. Note some visitors to the villa in court for looting. Now, we have no democracy. that delivers dividends to the people. That's credited to Obasanjo speaking there. And sitting judges should not preside over election tribunal. That's credited to Are Afe Babalola. This was during his 60th anniversary, been at the bar for 60 years. That man is an amazing man. We say congratulations to Are Afe Babalola. We wish him the very best and in wealth and in health. All right, moving further down, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is back, and we say welcome back, Mr. President, after he was at the ECOWAS summit and where he was made the chairman of that body. Say congratulations, Mr. President. A couple of stories on the bottom strip of the Daily here. Presidential poll, APC already preparing for rerun. That's credited to the Labour Party there. Anambra prepares for flood, trains 120 health workers. Please prepare, do the needful, and let's get this right. We don't want anybody blown away. Let's move over a little bit above the major plate here. INEC court holds trial of suspended Adamawa rec Yunusa Ari. We all might be amazed when we all probably heard that story, saw that story yesterday. It's been halted for now. You guys, hey, you need to hold on. Nobody should. Now that this case is before a competent court, the Elections Petitions Tribunal, this shouldn't be for now. Please just hold on. And Delta community laments gas leakages. That's really, really alarming, and that's really risky as well. On the top strip of the Vanguard newspaper for today, FGN Securities up 19.9% to 10.2 trillion naira as states decline 5%. A little bit just below that story I read out now. We won't pay compensation for illegal structures, Governor Eno warns. NECA to Tinubu 2023 Finance Act needs complete reversal, not suspension. Okay, other stories. Edo residents protest failed Auchi Igara Ibilo Road. Mr. Governor, please let's get to see what can be done. And if it's a federal government road, we just urge and admonish the federal government, Ministry of Works, to please do the needful. Security operatives intercept vessel notorious for stealing Nigerian crude. Yeah, now that it has been intercepted, we await what will be done, and those who were arrested, let's see how they will be prosecuted. And going straight to the exciting world of sport on the program this morning from the Vanguard newspaper. Man United closing on Nana to replace De Gea. Yeah, after about 12 years at Old Trafford, De Gea is finally moving on. All right. Let's see other stories from another paper, the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper for this morning. Here, the big bold caption that virtually all the papers carrying this morning says 800,000 liters vessel with stolen crude intercepted, destroyed. Oh boy, they need to destroy. If it's intercepted, if it's seized, probably it could be forfeited, and then the federal government probably owns. I don't know, but then. You have that story. It's common to virtually all the papers this morning. And the red strip on the pages of the Nation newspaper says, Ondo Assembly extends Akeredolu's medical leave. Yeah, it's that's a story. It's common to all the dailies indefinitely. Medical leave indefinitely. We wish Mr. Governor speedy recovery. Coming further down, Tinubu target 30 trillion naira revenue in 3 years. And the Writers Associated to the story says, plans technology data-driven approach, FIRS, customs, NIMASA, others won't be merged. Okay. Okay. And let's see what other story I have here. Obasanjo lashes lawmakers for fixing own pay. All right then. On the top strip of the Nation newspaper, sordid tales of Lagos Abeokuta Expressway users. That road is in a mess. The Lagos Abeokuta Expressway. Oh boy. Then okay, still checking out other stories here. U.S. waives export duty on cocoa. Economy gets boost. Thank you, and it's that's a good one there. EcoBank writes First Bank over Otudeco. Yeah, it's common to the papers that we have for today. And let me check out stories making the rounds as well from the pages of the Guardian newspaper, and look at some other different stories making the rounds from the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria flares $3.9 billion gas in 4 years amid pollution, revenue leakage concern. You want to know more about that? You can see the breakdown. It's just below that main story, and it's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. PDP governors meet as internal crisis heightens, and EcoBank urges FBN against ratifying Otudeco share accusation. While Nigeria remains country of concern in obnoxious wildlife trade, case against pension payment to former governors. It's something that Nigerians have been really been talking concerning that. And you also have the picture of King Charles III saying hello to Mr. Tony Elumelu there at Windsor Castle in London yesterday. Okay, that will be all from the dailies for today, and I'd like to let you know that very shortly I will be joined in the house by the state commander of ICPC, and we will really look into details of what it's definitely going to look like as the ICPC resident anti-corruption commissioner of OSUN State, Mr. ADEMOLA Bakare, very shortly will be joining me in the house. We will look at the war against corruption in commemorating African Union and Anti-Corruption Day. Every July 11th is always celebrated, is always commemorated as this day. But we'll look at the drive, the war against corruption. Can it ever be eradicated? How well can this be brought to the lowest ebb? Because as I speak, we all know that, corruption bites quite a whole lot in every sector in Nigeria. Is corruption biting around your home? We need to get it out. I'll be back right after the short break. Please stay with us.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
You must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television.
Television is coming home in your color and culture.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an Akaba museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history.
Thank you for staying with us, and welcome to this segment of the program Morning Spring, live from Western Spring Television. And we'll look at something very germane, which is very, very common in the world, not just Nigeria, but the level at which it is right here. It's baffling, it's scary, and we hope and we look forward that, hey, what can be done concerning this. Now, the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption will lead African Anti-Corruption Day event convened under the theme AUCPCC 20 years after achievement and prospect. Now, we would I actually have the singular honor this beautiful morning to have with me seated in the house this day, the ICPC Resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner, OSUN State, Mr. ADEMOLA BAKARE. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, presenter. Good morning, viewers at home.
We are very free, so anybody who is a little bit corrupt up in here, which I'm very excited that none of us is or are. So So you're free. You can do your investigative stuff in the course of this program. We'll find out who is corrupt.
This is a friendly visit.
Thank you. So someone like my director has the rest of mine. He should just go and sit down, relax, and do his job.
No,
so you heard that, Anibaba. God bless you. We will be looking at the war against corruption and commemorating the African Union Anti-Corruption Day. It's an essential thing that we need to talk about. We need to know what this is all about and how you and I is not just left to the hands of the ICPC, EFCC, government at all levels. It is something that you and I need to really talk about. So I would first of all want to ask Mr. Bakare at this moment in time, this day as it is, what does this day commemorate? We know every July 11th is always commemorated, but how did this come about?
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me start by saying that corruption, the word corruption, is not a native of Nigeria. It's a global citizen. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yes.
It has local implication. It has international dimension. Seeing this, the international community gathered together. Say, this is a menace that must be curtailed if there is going to be world development. In 2003, 20 years ago, the African Union adopted a convention for preventing and combating corruption in Africa. So, over that 20 years, we have achieved some landmark. And it is in commemoration of that, 20 years that we are celebrating the 20 years of the convention. But along the line, after the convention was adopted, the African Union Advisory Board on Corruption,
yes.
AUABC, adopted July 11 of every year. That was like 7 years ago, because this is the 7th edition of the anti-corruption, the AU Anti-Corruption Day. Adopted a day, July 11 of every year, as the day to commemorate. It is an opportunity for Africans, for every nation, every African nation, to pause and to reflect on the menace of corruption and see how far we have been able to checkmate it and what needs to be done further. That is essentially what we are doing today. We are not celebrating it. We are celebrating the adoption of the convention, but we are commemorating Anti-Corruption Day to put it in the public space again, so that we can discuss how far we have gone and the challenges ahead.
Now, the common view, I'm not going to limit our discussion to just Nigeria, okay. But obviously, yes, so this is our nation, and it's a pandemic, it's an endemic right here in this nation. But the common view is that Africa has a corruption problem. Not that Europe, not that South Americans don't have this, but the magnitude at which it is right here in Africa, using Nigeria as a case study, is alarming. Can this ever be eradicated or cut to the lowest ebb?
I agree with your analysis. It is alarming. It is not as if there is no corruption anywhere else apart from Nigeria, but the effort to tackle it are. The efforts are different. It's the difference in the efforts to tackle it. Why other nations are making serious efforts and they are succeeding. Africa, our efforts are limited. It has not achieved, the required result to managing corruption effectively. And that is the challenge. But can we eradicate corruption? I say no nation has been able to eradicate corruption. But nations have been able to manage corruption, reducing it to the barest minimum. That we can achieve in Africa if we put our mind to it.
Now, if we look at it annually, Africa loses up to about 50 billion US dollars through illicit financial outflow. Yeah. And I wonder where these monies are kept, all these assets, artifacts are being kept. It's probably in Switzerland, in more developed client. How do they do this? And what can be done to bring this down? Because I just read out something in the papers earlier here that 800,000 liters of laden vessel laden with fuel was intercepted, and that's part of the corruption we're talking about. You couldn't have gone to a filling station or to get that kind of fuel out. You probably must have gone to tap from the pipeline somewhere illegally. But if 50 billion US dollars is going out of Africa on yearly basis, how can development be standard in Africa? Can it ever be?
It is so sad that Africa and Africans connive with foreigners to deter our own development. Because when such amount of money flow out of an economy, you should know the impact of that. But be that as it may, and I've always said it, the amount of corruption, especially in terms of finances, that did not get to the treasury is far more than the one that has gotten to the treasury and stolen or looted. Is far more. So especially in the extractive industry, in terms of artifacts coming to Nigeria, and the practice of multinational companies, we connive with them to cook accounts and to evade tax. There are all sorts of practice that we do that takes money from our shores to the Americas, to Europe, to Scandinavia countries. But that is inimical to our development. And it is going to, if we continue along that line, it's going to take us a longer time to achieve the developmental goal that we have set for ourselves. So we need to stem that tide. Africa needs to control that outflow. In fact, Africa needs to step up actions to bring the outflow back. And we are doing just that. Some nations are doing that.
Let me ask you, you have a clearer view. We probably, as the ordinary citizens, we probably just look at it that, where are the loopholes? What needs to be changed?
Sincerely, it's in our attitude. The African attitude, Africa not being proud of its own. Africa being selfish. Because if you look at the common goal, if you look at the collective aspiration to develop, you will not do anything that is inimical to that. But we are self-centered, we are selfish, we are greedy. In Africa, God has blessed Africa very well. There is enough for our need. But our greed will not allow that enough to be enough. Enough for our need, not for our greed. That is the bane of Africa. And that is why there is outflow. Outflow outside of Africa, that some Africans that know about the outflow, they take their share out of it, and they become stupendously rich at the detriment of the common man in Africa. And that is the bane of the African society. Then we need to, therefore we need to change our attitude. From inside of our heart to reject any reflection, any manifestation of corruption at all, to resist it. People doing it, to resist them, and to report to authority. Most African countries have set up authorities to fight corruption in their different countries. So when we reject, we resist, and we report corruption, let us wait on the authorities to do the needful and bring those that are perpetrating corruption to books.
in 2019, the Angolan is it Secretary General, the Angolan Attorney General, reported that their office had recovered more than $5 billion US. Just as we said earlier, that this is not just to Nigerians alone. It is endemic. It is virtually everywhere. But when I begin to hear this large amount of money, if Angola has $5 billion US, they probably will, the economy, whatever injected into the economy. Well, but in Nigeria as well, it is it's so common. And in 2018, the government recovered $322 million US from the Swiss government that had been stolen by a former military ruler. We know who that is. And looking at $322 million US injected into the economy, but this same set of money, when it's recovered, it's corrupted again. It's gone out again. Look, how can all these recovered assets, recovered monies, be channeled to proper use in this dear nation of ours? Can it ever work? I'm beginning to come to Nigeria now. Let us
look at this scenario. Those that are involved in looting, for the initial looting, or the looting or the recovered, loot, they are Africans.
Yes.
They are Angolans. They are Nigerians, probably working in conjunction with some foreigners to loot and reloot the economy. It means that we need to actually do something to our psyche. Doing something inimical at the detriment of our own people. We need something to, we need to do something about our psyche. So that we will be proud of our own. We will love our people. Patriotism needs to be stepped up in Africa. We need to be patriotic to the African ideal. We need to be patriotic to the Nigerian ideal, to the nation, Nigeria. We need behavioral change. We need reorientation. Reorientation towards loving whatever is African than loving other economy. If we develop our economy, there will be employment for our youth. There will be more or less unrest as a result of unemployment. There will be less criminality. If we look at the goal, we will be able to to achieve a lot for the African society. But it will take some time to be able to do that.
Wow, it will take some time to be able to do that. Yeah. So probably not in our own generation.
It's very possible. Let us look at what has happened in some other clime. When Hong Kong, for instance, when Hong Kong was going to fight corruption, it was the people that insisted that their government must fight corruption. The reverse is the case. The people insisted that you must fight corruption. It was the corruption of the police, chief of the police, that blew the lid off. And people insisted that it must be probed. And that was the genesis of the anti-corruption crusade in Hong Kong. That was like some 40-something years ago. And down the line, they have achieved a lot. It's a lot. Singapore, Hong Kong, they have left the position of third world country. They have merged into the first country. They have achieved that over 40 years. It is very likely that we can achieve that if we put our mind to it. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. It's the government that wants to fight corruption. People that are supposed to show the same commitment to the crusade. They are not. Even they are not speaking up. They are not. When they ask questions, most of the time they tend to ask the wrong kind of questions. So we need to adjust our psyche. We need to do that. I am not passing the buck to the people, but I'm saying
they should take the lead.
People take the lead and you insist. You put the government there, and when they are not doing what you want them to do, you change them. We have a democracy. Do not compromise the electoral process. It is the people that compromises the electoral process. You compromise it for them.
Mr. Bakare, let's look at this aspect of corruption here? Because when every one of us were born, nobody has a desire, I'm going to be corrupt. And what would you say has brought about that level of corruption inside every one of us?
Thank you so very much. You could see that our society, we tend to become more materialistic. There is moral decadence. Everybody wants to, I mean, a 17-year-old boy wants to blow.
Wants to ride a Jeep.
Want to ride a Jeep at 17. And the parent that's supposed to check the behavior, the character of the children, they tend to clap for them some of the time. You see parents being arrested alongside, their children in, corruption cases at times. When you have such a system that is materialistic, that is, people tend to become greedy. What do you have? And the system too. The system needs constant monitoring and revision. No system works permanently forever. Virus we come in, we creep in. So constant revision of our system, the financial system, the economic system, for instance, in the public sector, the procurement system, constant revision, constant monitoring, vigilance of everybody. But people that are going to be vigilant must be corruption free themselves. They must be free of the greed. They must be free of the moral decadence. So we need to breed a core of Nigerian that we eschew this corruption. And the process is a very long process.
Let's come home. Okay, before we come home, is there something on the African continent that is bringing up that opportunity if assets have been stolen from Nigeria, they've been taken to Zimbabwe, they've been taken to Zambia? Is there a collaboration between African government that, hey, this thing has been found in your country, it was stolen from my country, and is there a collaboration, that anti-corruption kind of like crusade to bring all to recover and know how to go about this? Is it possible? Is it working?
Yeah, it's in fact, it is one of those things that needs to be celebrated. We have African common position on asset recovery. Okay. Africans have united, telling the safe havens for this loot. This is what we want. We want our assets recovered from you, and they have gotten a lot of support. You just spoke about Angola recovering $5 billion, Nigeria recovering much more than that, that we have recovered. This was just one lump sum, and we have recovered a series of stolen wealth from several places in outside of Nigeria. So we have achieved a lot in terms of this particular one. The next action is when we do recover, as they have agreed that they are going to help us return the stolen asset. When we recover, we must put our acts in order so that it is not relooted. And in Nigeria, as we are coming into a new administration, I think the government must be prevailed upon by the vocal elements in the society. Government must be prevailed upon to put its mind at fighting corruption, because no matter how strongly you build an economy, if there is hemorrhage somewhere, it will still appear as if you have not done anything. If you build wealth, you build financial resources, but it is being frittered away through acts of corruption, there will be less and less for you to develop the economy. So as we build the economy, we must fight corruption so that it is not wasted and it is not stolen into private pockets. So as we prevail on the government to work on the economy, we must prevail on the government, the new administration, to put stronger, screw
to tighten it up.
To tighten up the anti-corruption crusade, so that whatever is built is being used for the generality of the Nigerian people.
Remember, former president in our dear nation had said that as much as they are fighting corruption, corruption keeps fighting back.
Sure, it does everywhere. It does, because these corrupt people, they have amassed large wealth that they can use, to corrupt the judicial system. They can use to corrupt the media. They can use to do all of them. They can manipulate people to be fighting who is fighting corruption. So they can do a whole lot of the corruption. They create scandal for whoever they see as the enemy of their corruption machine.
Wow.
So the corruption do fight back, and that it does everywhere in the world.
Goodness. Because I remember probably the likes of youth while we were younger than this, in the early 80s, 70s, 80s, it wasn't this endemic. And but as it is now, to really be able to pull this down is weighty. Yeah. Like your body, the organization, the agency of government, ICPC. I know that there's been so much work that ICPC has been doing to see how to eradicate this, nip the bud on the head. For this agency of government, would you say you've been able to achieve a whole lot in the fight against corruption, or there will have been that major support from government to be able to help you out to prosecute this business of fighting corruption to a large extent?
Thank you very much. If you want to do an assessment, there must be a benchmark that you are comparing with. The international convention, both the United Nations Convention as well as the African Union Convention, they set a parameters of how nations should fight corruption. Criminalization of corruption acts and sanctioning, prevention, reorientation, public involvement of the media and the general public in the crusade, so that they can be carried along, and international cooperation and the likes. We have done exactly that. It is gratifying to note that our own act, since we started fighting corruption year 2000, our own act even came before the convention, and our own act encapsulates the entire gamut of what the convention says. So we have three-pronged a mandate of fighting corruption in Nigeria. One is the enforcement. Law enforcement, you receive reports of the commitment of commission or attempts to commit corruption from people. You investigate and you prosecute if you are able to establish a prima facie case. That's the enforcement mandate. The other mandate is prevention. No system works permanently forever, so you prevent by tinkering with the system. Where you find the loopholes, where the system is corruption prone, you put some knot to it, you adjust it to fit into what you actually want, what is good for the system. So prevention and mobilization of the general public to fight along with you. You can't fight it alone. 100 ICPC, FCC cannot fight corruption alone if Nigerians are not fighting alongside. So we have public mobilization, and we have segmented the society into various segments: the youth, the women, the traditional institution, and the school system, and everybody, carrying everybody along in the crusade, so that there will be a broad-based support. So stakeholder support is very critical, and we have been able to achieve that in the corporate. The media is a stakeholder in this. Most of the time, you break some corruption, scandal, and the agencies of government now pursue it and see it to logical conclusion. So saying all this, yes, I want to say, and I want to beat my chest that we have been able to do. Part of prevention is both enforcement and prevention. When you say you want to recover asset that has been looted, and you go all the way traveling all over the world to look where they are and bring them back, it takes a lot of effort. It takes, diplomacy. It takes, real technical know-how of how the international financial system works before you can be able to do that. And we have been able to achieve a lot in that particular regard. In terms of, the enforcement too, we have been able to, in the time past, you see sacred cow. It's like nobody is sacred now. You see governors being dragged. You see ministers being dragged. You see the concept of sacred cow is fast giving way. And you look at the fact that when you tie the knot, it means some of this, in fact, major aspect of it may not make the newspaper. When you are able to, 2 years ago, you will know that there is a system, there is a change in the system. 3 years ago, when your son wanted admission, you needed to pay somebody to facilitate the admission for him. But when you now note in the system now that this year, your daughter that wants admission, you did not pay anything. You should know that something actually has happened, to this system. So it may not be, able to hit you just like that in the face, but you will note that there is something that has changed in the system. It's corruption, anti-corruption will not seem to have succeeded if the way and manner we live our life, the welfare of the people is not affected. Nigerians will not acknowledge that there is any change. So that is where the problem is. So the anti-corruption is being mainstreamed at 2 levels. Mainstreamed to cascade it at the federal government. You see the noise about fighting corruption is much more at the federal level. So it's being mainstreamed into the subnational level. Secondly, it's being mainstreamed into service delivery. Okay. Because if you go into, we fight public sector corruption by going into different agencies that, money meant for this particular thing is not stolen by officials of government. So that is the internal process. But in the interface of that, public sector organization with members of the public, there could be corruption there too. People asking people to bring money in order to get passport or to get whatever. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not indicting any agency. So in the interface between the members of the public and public sector organization, you need to fight corruption at that level. So at the service delivery level, you need to fight corruption. So that is the next stage of the fight against corruption. And we have started. We have started. And Nigeria, if we put our mind to it, if you change your attitude, I change my attitude, the other person change their attitude, then who's going to be corrupt? We need change of our mindset.
It's really tough, because if that can be done, I think we'll probably live in a better society. Now, let's look at the 2023 Anti-Corruption Day that is being commemorated today. Is there anything, a program, is there crusade, is there something we are looking at? Yeah, we thank God in OSUN here, at the national level, there is going to be a conference. Okay. At the international level, is being led by AU, ABC. Leading the conference. But in Abuja, I think something is being done. But I want to speak because I'm here in OSUN. What are we doing here in OSUN? Yes, so what we have tried to do is to bring stakeholders together. To bring stakeholders together to ruminate, to pause, and to reflect on what has been done so far, achievements and the challenges. How can we overcome the challenges that we have seen? So we are going early this morning from 9 a.m. to probably 10 a.m. We are going to have a rally, and
most security law enforcement agencies are in tandem with what we are doing. It's like, I mean, the security agencies in Osun State will rally against corruption. We are going to have that in Ede. I must say that this year edition of the AU Anti-Corruption Day is being hosted by Federal Polytechnic Ede. Oh. So we are having that rally in Ede, from Okegada area in Ede to the Federal Polytechnic campus. When we get there, we move around the campus a little bit to crusade, and we retire into the hall. We are going to retire into a hall to now have a stakeholder, interactive session where we talk to ourselves about the achievement. I'm going to do a presentation on the scorecard of ICPC, what we have done nationally, and specifically what we have done here in Osogbo. In Osun State. And stakeholders will now have their own contribution, what they are doing and what we intend to do to overcome the few of the challenges that we still have in the anti-corruption crusade. So we are going to be rubbing mind. We are going to rally and we are going to rub minds together. That is the program that we have for the AU Day today.
Let's look at us here, Osun. Let's look at where you head here. What is it like? Has there been a major corruption case that this agency has prosecuted right here in Osun, or are we all very...
let me quickly correct one impression. There's no small, there's no big corruption.
Absolutely.
The impact is always the same thing.
Absolutely.
In corruption, somebody is being denied of something. Somebody that ought to get something is being denied of that something. So the impact is always the same thing. And in Osun, we have seen a recruitment scandal where officials of government or their collaborators, fleecing members of the public, promising them to get them employed and collecting money from them. We have done cases like that we have secured a conviction. We have done a lot of tracking of federal government projects, constituency projects and executive projects. Last year alone we tracked over 1 billion naira worth of project here in Osun alone, and we have done the same thing in Osogbo. In some of the cases where we found that the contractors have not complied to standard, we have forced them back to site to go and comply to standard. People must get what government wants them to get, what they requested from government and what government is paying for. So we have asked contractors to go back to site to comply to standard, and where we felt that you have completed this but you have overpriced government, we have asked contractor to refund money back to government. But most of the time, most of these things do not get media mention because controversy should be. So while we are doing our work, people that have been denied admission have gotten admission. People that are doing some form of examination racketeering, they have been disbanded, they have been caught, they have been reorientated, and these are some of our achievements. But I must say quickly that the menace of Yahoo boy, Yahoo people in Osun State is big. People that are being chased from the adjoining states are coming to Osun, and something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. We need to redeem our youth. We need to put them on the path of legitimate earning. The Yahoo thing, the IT thing that they are using to commit this crime, they can use it legitimately and earn good money. So we need to reorientate our youth. We need to do something about it. And I'm looking forward to, the day that the government, we call the law enforcement agencies that, let us see what we can do. It's not just about arrest and jailing. It's about reorientating our youth. It's about creating opportunities for them. And I hope the state government will seriously come into this, I am expecting that they do that.
Okay, thank you. You reeled out some of the gains you've made so far,
yes,
right here in Osun State. Now, let's thank you as well. You made mention of the fact that this can be done alone. The assistance of government at all levels, not just the state government, is needed, because what you reeled out last, the Yahoo boys, but we'll really come to that here. But what kind of partnership does this kind of agency require to be able to forge ahead and do much more when it's in terms of trying to eradicate or curb corruption to the lowest ebb?
The kind of partnership that anti-corruption requires is a very robust partnership with every segment of the society. No segment of the society must be left out. The civil society, as stakeholders, they need to partner with us. The religion sector, the traditional institution, the school system, the youth, the women, virtually everybody is important. And we have what we call National Anti-Corruption Coalition. Coalition of all these stakeholders. We have that at ICPC. One other thing that I want, for instance, we need the collaboration of the civil society, the collaboration of the common man to be able to track a project. It's the common man that will point out that this thing that federal government or state government is doing in our locality is not being done properly. It's being done shoddily. Come and track it, and when you track it, you are able to redeem such projects. Okay, this project supposed to be the transformer that you supposed to install in this place supposed to be 500 kVA. Transformer, but where we see 300, go and remove it and replace it with a required kVA, 500 kVA. When you insist on that, it's the members of the public that will benefit from it, and the government will be seen as performing government. So we need the support of everybody. The traditional institution, we talk to our people that we do not want bad eggs in our community. Do not give us bad name. We are good people in Iragbiji. We are good people in Oshogbo. We are good people in Ilesha. We are good. Do not give us bad name. Don't go out there to go and corrupt. Corrupt yourself and come bring ill-gotten wealth to Oshogbo, to Ilesha, to Iragbiji, to Iwo or Ede. So we need the support of everybody and the government itself. The government itself, we are going to work as federal government agencies in Osun. You need collaboration. Everything is not about enforcement. Everything is not about jailing. We need to work together so that good governance can be delivered to the people of Osun State.
When you talk about good governance, here in Osun State, to use our state as a case study here, that sustainable path to be able to have good governance where Mr. Governor can be checked and things are okay. Mr. Commissioner is there. How sustainable is this path? How can we achieve this path to be able to say, you and I, we are clean? Or just like the Yorubas would say, oh, one more. How can this sustainable path come into play?
As the saying goes, the fish rottens from the head. But if the head is clean, it means that the clean head will have clean eats surrounding himself, because he wouldn't want any of the aid that misbehave, he gets yanked off the system, just like that. And such behavior, such conduct would now permeate the entire system. If you have good hands in the education sector, sector you won't have the case of you won't have examination malpractices will be curbed. Admission racketeering will be curbed, and it flows down in the education sector. Like the same thing will be in the health sector. If you have good hands running the health system, there will be emphasis on professionalism. Drugs provided in the health sector will get to the people that needs it. Equipment will not be used for private practices. It will cascade down to the entire society, and people will be the beneficiary. People will be the beneficiary, and when people benefit, it means that the economy will flourish. People are healthier, to be able to do their work. The quality of education is improved for the youth to make meaningful contribution to the same economy. There won't be good engineers will be produced, good medical doctors, pharmacists will be produced, and there won't be collapsing of building and things like that. The society will be the major beneficiary of it if we can have leadership. Leadership supported by clean followership. Because if the head is a head that is going towards different direction than what the followers are doing, is just taking a walk. Because when he now looks back, he will not see anybody around him. So it means that if the leadership is charting a good course, we must follow. If we do not follow, it will fail, and the next thing that will happen to such leadership is that the good leadership will be removed because people have not decided to change. So it needs these two sides. Leadership has to be correct, the followership has to be good.
This is something whereby it requires constant reminders. And what's the crusade like here in Osun State, the ICPC in Osun State? Because aside from today, how often do we do sensitization to secondary schools, universities?
Very, very often. There is no week that my people will not be in one sensitization program or the other. We have segmented this, like I told you. We have one initiative, behavioral change initiative, and we have the national ethics and integrity policy program that because it is when we practice ethics, we practice integrity, that the menace of corruption will be curbed. And everybody must be involved. So we go to different places. I mean, that we had joint workshops and seminars with CAN, with religious leaders, CAN, and the Muslim community. We have had a seminar with the traditional institution, the school system, every blessed day. The NYC, we have robust relationship with NYC. In fact, we have in NYC we have the group, community service group on anti-corruption. So that every week they will visit school on our behalf, teaching them what we have taught them. So we have a robust, and the effect of that is not even going to be now, it's in the future. We have designed what we call the national value curriculum. The national value curriculum, when some people like us, when we were growing up, we had civics. But suddenly it went out of the something. So our children were not being taught any values at all. They were just growing in knowledge without moral, knowledge without ethics. But we brought that into the curriculum, not as a specific subject, but the concept of nationalism and so on and so forth are being taught in some key subjects, in some key examination subjects, so that when they learn about it, when they come into the general society, when they become adults, they will remember one day that, okay, we were taught to do this. I can cite an example. When I was going to write my JAM, that was the year 85. When I was going to write the JAM, there was this subject. This comprehension passage in the general English use of English. It's about somebody was going for an interview. He woke up by 5 a.m. to prepare, but as at 7 o'clock, he was still determining what to wear. I think the topic of that something was the choice of what to wear. He was still determining. He got late to the venue of the interview. When I became an adult, a similar incident was going to happen to me, and that quickly came to my mind, saying, don't fall into the choice of what to wear, conundrum. And I quickly adjusted myself. There is a way that what we teach our children today will influence their character, their behavior, their conduct in the future. So the impact of the national value curriculum is not going to be now, it's going to be in the future. In the next 10, 15 years, we'll begin to see citizens that are more cultured. If we give it the necessary push, that is required.
Mr. Bakare, before we probably call it a wrap, let's look at the ideals of what government needs to do, what parents needs to do, religious leaders, the community, everywhere. Because our country, Nigeria, is one of the biggest things that is killing this country right now. Looking at the past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, and I read something from the papers this morning whereby Reverend Father Matthew Kuka of the Methodist Archdiocese Sokoto stated, looking at those words, they were powerful. And if we remember, we were at least a little bit old enough to understand what President Muhammadu Buhari did when he was a military head of state in the early 70s and 80s here. But it's not what we have today. Today, in the world today, Nigeria today is another different entity entirely. The role of government, the role of parents, the role of the school, religious leaders, to cleanse, to sensitize, to sanitize this environment called Nigeria. What should each one of them at this moment in time to help agencies like yours to get it right?
You see, I always say this. Societies that are making progress are societies that are rules-driven.
Rules-driven.
They have their rules, they have their guidelines, they have their laws, and they strictly follow it. Any contravention is strictly sanctioned. There's nobody pleading for. So many people have started pleading for this girl. The jam, whatever, they have started pleading. No, why I will go for clemency that she should not be sanctioned is no for me. Because that will send the right signal to would-be culprits. So the kind of support that we need from the hand of government, we need the support, the manpower that we need. Our manpower needs to be, increased. We need to be properly trained to be a step ahead of the criminal. To properly be trained, we need, equipment, we need facilities, we need vehicles. Prosecution, prosecution is not cheap. In fact, media engagement is not cheap. So we need better provision of resources to be able to do what is needed, and we need the support. We are not clairvoyant. We cannot be everywhere. People need to report. People need to speak up. People need to assist us with intelligence. So intelligence gathering too needs the support of the Nigerian people, and every segment. The preachers in the churches, in the mosque, need to preach more on integrity. It's not about, collection of tithes and collection of offering alone. But where is that money being used for offering and tithe? Where is it coming from? Question it a little bit, and let them know that they cannot get a front seat by being a corrupt person wherever wherever they work. So if that is known, and people know that they can lose respect, the public respect as a result of their corruption, there will be less, gravitation towards corruption. So every segment of the society needs to make their own contribution. And lastly, it requires you, me, as individual, to make that commitment that we want a better Nigeria. It's personal. We need to take personal responsibility. We need to dignify ourselves. We need to have voice and participate in affairs of this nation. So all these are clearly stated in what we call the National Ethics and Integrity Policy. About 7 core values that we need to promote in Nigeria to have a Nigeria of our dream. And if we do that across the length and breadth of Africa, it means that Africa will just emerge as the choice continent.
And is it possible we have all these things, all the 7 core attributes you mean? Is it possible that we have it done and adhered to properly?
They are simple. The first one is human dignity. I dignify you, you dignify me. If I want to dignify you, I will not steal what belongs to you. I will not make you poor. I will not make you suffer. I will not treat you like animal. So, human dignity, voice and participation. Speak up. If you see wrongdoing, being perpetrated anyway, speak up about it. When it is required of you to participate in anything, everything governmental, do it. Voice and participation. When patriotism is required, love for our country, we should place the love of Nigeria above selfish. All this, the core values, they are professionalism. You are being professional the way you anchor this particular program, but when it comes to, financial issue, the people in charge of finances, are they professional too? Are they doing the right thing? Are they not, tinkering with the professionalism? All these are things, essential things that we need to, and they are all in our, professional books. We are, as a member of the journalist, profession, journalism, you have your ethics, ethics of the profession. Are you abiding with it? All these are embedded in every professional ethics, embedded in code of ethics of the public officials, embedded in code of ethics of our different organizations. They are things that we only need to call our attention to it, and we only need to practice it. When we begin to practice it, unity, for instance, in recruitment, you need to be national in outlook. Do not reserve every position in your office to people of your ethnic group, to people of your religious background alone. Make inclusiveness. All these are, they are not things out of this world. They are things that are necessary. All the 7 core values of the national ethics and integrity policy, if we practice it, I am telling you, if majority practice it, leaving out those that will still be recalcitrant. If the majority practice it, then Nigeria will emerge. I have no doubt in my mind. But to be able to do it, that is where the task is.
Can you give us a little bit of, is there this analysis that looks at the most corrupt state in Nigeria today?
It will be hard. It will be hard to say, because if you want to use the analysis of the number of petition to judge, how many of such petitions are found eventually to be true, to be worthy? It will be wrong to use. If you look at the volume of, the amount of money that are being alleged to have been stolen from a particular state, how much of that money have been recovered? There will be challenges, and there has not been any such analysis, to my knowledge. Even in my organization, we have not done that, because we are not going to be judgmental. What if we say, even we try as much as possible to shy away from identifying anybody, any individual, as an icon of integrity? What if I give you that award today, and tomorrow you are caught in the trap of corruption? Am I going to withdraw that award? So we try to shy away from. But let me tell you, what we have done, we have what we call the ethics and integrity scorecard for government agencies. For government agencies, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, NITSDA, every federal, especially federal government establishment, we monitor them, we put them on a scale. We look at your process, we look at your procedures, we look at, we compare what you promise to deliver to people and what the people are saying. We do all sort of, to arrive at that scorecard. It's a scorecard, and we have seen some over the years, year 2021, some agencies did very well. 2022, other agencies emerged. 2023, we are going to declare, the result of that scorecard that we have conducted this year by September, by the very special grace of God. So it's hard for me to say this state or this agency is because everywhere, every state, every agencies of government, we are still in work in progress.
Wow. Nigeria has put together by Transparency International.
Yes, yes.
Look at what I'm looking at is Africa, Nigeria, which is Africa's most populous country, has a corruption perception index of 2024.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that not high?
It's high. If you look at it, what TI measures is perception. And perception is gotten from opinion expressed. Nigerians we speak harsh about ourselves. Nigeria is finished. Nigeria, these are the opinions that they measure. The reality, because I've just told you, the reality of what we have done out of the entire continent, recovery done by Nigeria alone. 4-5 countries matched together cannot match the recovery that we have done. That is not being the reality of our activities, anti-corruption activities, are not being measured. Is the perception of people, opinion makers, and the opinion of CSO that wants funding, international funding. The moment they declare that the corruption problem is solved, they are not going to get that funding again. So they must say it that there is still corruption. Even when there is not, they must declare that there is corruption, and that is what the perception of TI. So the TI, yes, we can use that to know that yes, the challenges of corruption is still there. But we can't use that to judge ourselves. We will not use that to judge ourselves because it's too harsh. It's about perception. It's not about reality.
Wow, it's been an honor speaking with you this beautiful morning. But I will just say, before we call it a wrap, you lend your voice to the millions of voices that have been saying, look, Nigeria is a beautiful country.
It is.
And there's so much wealth and resources right here in this dear nation. But it is just segmented to one segment of the country. But I'm going to allow you to lend your voice to the fact that, look, let's change our orientation. And how would you please lend your voice to millions of people watching us?
Thank you so much. You see, I will say this: Nigeria is blessed.
Absolutely.
Bring a grain and just throw it anywhere in Nigeria to germinate.
Absolutely.
Underneath our ground, you have beautiful natural resources that God has endowed this country with, and we have people, great people. When they emerge from here, when they get to international stage, they excel. We have good people. What is our problem? Our problem is what we have been discussing all this while. And those that are involved in the game of corruption needs to be checkmated. Reject, resist, and report corruption. When we do just that, leave it to the anti-corruption agencies to do their job, and with the support of government, with the backing of the people. When they do is there won't be anybody criticizing that, okay, it is because it's a Yoruba man, it is because he's a Christian, it is because he's that they are witch hunting him. We will not be shouting witch hunting. So we need to amend our ways in several ways if we want our country our people to fully benefit from what God has blessed this country with. Those of our children doing Japa, the Japa syndrome. I do not, because it's going to be beneficial on the long run. Because when Nigeria turns out good, they will run back to Nigeria, and they will bring the golden fleece from all over the world back to Nigeria. I was in Israel sometimes, and somebody told us that Nigeria, you are a blessed country. You are the country of the future. He said, why? He said, your people are in Germany, your people are in America, your people are here, they are getting trained, they are getting skills all over the world. If they return to Africa, if they return to Nigeria, Nigeria will merge all the goodies of all these countries, and just because combining 3, 4, 5 countries' goodies, you will be better than each one of
those countries.
Of one of them. So the Japa is good as far as I'm concerned. But I will employ people that are doing Japa, that are spending 10 million naira to do Japa. If you invest that 10 million naira in Nigeria, you will leave America or the UK that you are running to, Canada that you are running to. 10 million naira cannot sustain you for 3 months there. So but it can sustain you if you cut your coat according to your size. Here, you cannot rent a house that is less than $1,000 a month out there. $1,000 house rent here, it will cover you a year. So we should examine this. It's not, and not all that glisters are good. They are not picking in those countries. They are not just picking country. But what is sad, what is saddest is the fact that when you leave Nigeria, you run away from Nigeria because of bad governance. When you now get there, you are destroying their good governance there. You are giving Nigeria bad name. So when they go out, let them go and display the good quality of average Nigerian. And when the time comes, let them come here to come and contribute their own quota to our development. But I will advise them, stay here. Let us build Nigeria together. It's been a pleasure speaking with the ICPC Resident Commissioner, OSUN State, Mr. ADEMOLA BAKARE. Thank you for insightful analysis. Thank you. We wish you the very best as you proceed on this beautiful day, commemorating the Anti-Corruption Day. Wow, that's the show for today. It's been a worthy one, and I just want to admonish us, hey, corruption doesn't breed anything good. It kills the society. So let's try as much as possible. Let's do the needful. Tunde IDOWU is my name. On behalf of the entire transmission team, good morning.